everyone. I'm Kenny Rice. Welcome into the Horse Racing Show, and what a show we have today. This is the preview of the Preakness Stakes, the 145th running, coming up on Saturday. The Bob Baffert will be joining us in just a few moments. He has the favorite in the race, the Derby champ. That would be Authentic. He also has 1,000 Words. Then we'll be talking with Kenny McPeek, who comes in with the filly, Swiss Skydiver. Can she become only the sixth filly to ever win this race? And then Art Collector and his trainer, Tommy Drury. They had to miss the Derby, but they're ready to go for the Preakness. So all that coming up. Ben Chaffins, as always, on lead guitar. Ben, are you ready to strap in and go with all these great trainers today?
Oh, I am ready. This is going to be a great show.
All right, when we come back, Bob Baffert talking about his Derby winner, Authentic, on the way to the Preakness right here on the Horse Racing Show. This is the Horse Racing Show. I'm Kenny Rice. Last week we had the legendary trainer D. Wayne Lucas on, who said the best trainer of all time is Bob Baffert. That was an unsolicited comment from Wayne Lucas. And here he is now, Hall of Famer Bob Baffert, who comes into the Preakness with the favorite, the Derby winner, Authentic. Bob, welcome back.
Hey, thanks for having me, Kenny. We're lucky together.
Yeah, I mean it's now official, isn't it? You know, we'll see you up there all day at the Preakness, and in what has been a crazy year, and everything settled down a bit from the Derby. I mean, I don't know if there'll ever be a Derby like that in many ways for you again, Bob.
The outcome was great, but I felt like I went from hell and back in 30 minutes. It was just the most crazy scenario. You know, every year, I always, something happens to me that I thought, this could never happen. There's 1,000 things that go wrong in this business. And that 1,000 words, what he did in there, he just got mad. And he sort of reared up and he lost his footing and fell on his side. But when he did that, my assistant Jimmy, he fell backwards and he landed on his wrist, broke it in eight places, and he got 9 screws in a plate, but he's good now, and he'll take 10 weeks, but he's in good spirits.
So the horse is good, and Jimmy Barnes is good.
The horse is really good, but Jimmy Barnes he's not going to be good for a while, So, but he's it was so after it all happened, then we win the race, we go to the winner's circle. I put the garland of roses over his withers. And this horse is he's both of them are tough, but he's sort of a buggery. He looks at everything. That's why I run him with earplugs, and he's always looking. Yeah. And when I put those garland of roses over him, and they're beautiful, you would have thought I was putting a live wolf on his withers. I'm telling you what, he did not like that at all. So I told him, you better be careful. So when we took him in the winner's circle, everybody started yelling and cheering, and he was not going for that at all. He was just he was pretty hyped up, and he wasn't really that tired, and so and what happened is I moved and he spun around, and when I moved, he knocked me and he sent me flying, and I was going to land on my side, and I was going to put my arm out, Kenny, to break the fall. Yeah. And I remembered Jimmy. And so I did the old tuck, and I thought, this is going to look bad. And I just stuck my arms in, hit on my back. When the minute I hit on my back, I knew Twitter was going to have a ball with it. And so, but I got up, dusted myself up, and got our picture, and here we are.
And with that, you tied the record with 6 Derby wins, and that was a heck of a day. I remember I was only a few feet away from you there in the winner's circle when you went down, and I'm thinking to myself, oh no, what else is left? I saw 1,000 Words fall. I've seen Authentic win. I didn't know about Jimmy's condition until you told me on the post race. And I said, I hope Bob's okay, because now I feel like I'm back to covering MMA fighting world, Bob. I'm giving like injury reports.
Now I know how those guys feel when they just get a double uppercut and they fall on their back. I know what it feels like. I hit hard, and it's downhill, and I slid a little bit, but I was more worried about my coat than I messed it. I tore it up or something, but it was okay.
You look good as usual, especially when you're in a winner's circle. And, I guess it means that Authentic is going to win because you're perfect. Every time you've won the Derby, every Derby horse you've had that won also came back to win the Preakness. You're 5 for 5.
Yeah, but that's because we run it 2 weeks later. If they could have run it 2 weeks later, we would have been ready because now those other guys have a chance to freshen up and wait for me. But you know what? The horse, he looks great, came out of the race really well. He couldn't be doing better. There's no excuses. If he just needs to get away from there. He's a target now. Before he wasn't a target. And that race at Haskell, when Mike sort of wrapped up on him early, and everybody thought he was life and death to win, but he sees stuff and he just stops. Now, and that's what he does. When he makes a lead, he needs something to, Tis the Law carried him. When he came to him, he carried him to the wire. So, and I'm sure you got horses like Art Collector who looks like he's a serious horse. So that'd be a good race.
Yeah, I mean, in 1,000 words, as far as the way he's bounced back and everything, how's he shaping up for this?
He looks good. I mean, he actually is working well. He's going to be fresh too. He's going to be tough. He'll be right there. And so, he's what we call the other Baffert. You never know. They're always dangerous, And so, but he's doing really well. But I think Authentic though, he's a real deal. I mean, he's lost once. This is my fault. I didn't really have him ready for it and had a rough trip. And that's the thing, you got to get the trip. He's got to break well and get in the race, not go too fast. But now they know, they'll be ready for him this time. So, but that's just the way it is. Just like War Emblem, remember he stole the race. They were ready for him for the Preakness. He still got the job done. The good ones get the job. The good ones get the job done, Kenny.
And they do when they're trained by Bob Baffert, who has the favorite and Authentic. And you left him at Churchill Downs, which you usually do. But, again, you have the 2 weeks, not the 1 month now with everything crazy in there. And you left him with a pretty good assistant trainer named Wayne Lucas. He says he took pretty good care of Authentic and 1,000 words for you when we had him on last week.
Wayne is the best. He's a great horseman. I have total respect. When I was growing up, he was the bar. I mean, he was always been the bar. And even in the quarter horse world, he was the best. Thoroughbred, he's the best. I still think he's the best. And he's a sharp guy, and he says, look, if he gets beat, he's not going to get beat on my watch. So he said, he told me, don't mess it up when you get up there. So it's pretty. I have a great relationship with him, and he's a legend.
Oh, yeah. And what has this been like, Bob, to have this 1 month instead of the 2 weeks? I mean, do you do anything different to get ready for this Preakness as compared to all the other Preaknesses, the other 7 that you've won coming out of Derby with horses?
Well, usually within the 2 weeks, you don't have to do much with them because they're ready to roll. And just, they're ready. You can just gallop them, not do much with them. But this guy, I worked him twice, and I was so busy. I had to fly back to California. We had the fires there. I had to get those horses ready for this last week, for those preps and, Improbable, Maximum Security, the colt race, the filly, Princess Noor. And then we run here, and then we go back. We got to get them ready for the Breeders' Cup. And Authentic, he'll come back to Lucas's bar, and I'll get him ready there because I don't want to take him all the way to California.
So either way, he's going to stay in Kentucky, or he'll come back from Baltimore to Kentucky.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now, well, let's talk. You brought it up. I mean, what a week you've had since the Derby. Weeks you've had since the Derby. You mentioned the filly, and now also Improbable, Maximum Security. What a great race, and 3 Grade 1 wins for Improbable this year, who I believe was the Derby favorite last year.
Yeah, you know what? He's really disappointed last year because a lot of it is just his mental attitude, and he's still a little bit of it. He's tough. I mean, I saddled him the other day, and he was a handful. I mean, he bounced me around a little bit the other day, and but he's just getting really good. And Maximum Security, he ran a gallant race. He didn't bring his A game, and he was coming back a little quick. But now he's got couple extra weeks there to get ready for the Breeders' Cup. But I mean, Improbable, Max, and Authentic, if he runs well, he's going to be in the Breeders' Cup. So there's 3 heavy duty horses, and so and then we had that Princess Nora, that Tiro filly. I don't know how good she is. She wins. She wins in second gear, gear down. She's a freaky little thing, and so colt race. Little light right now. Horse I thought could win, but he didn't run very well, so hopefully he'll improve.
And there's still that horse Gamine.
Gamine, I'm gonna. You know what? She was tired. You know, she didn't run a race in the Oaks, and a lot of shipping. So I'm going to freshen her up. I'm just going to run her 7/8. Johnny says, let's keep her 7/8, and I'll stretch her out later on next year.
Yeah, so she'll be pointing to the Breeders' Cup as well?
Filly and Mare Sprint, yeah.
Filly Mare Sprint, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Do you ever stop and think, let's see now, I got to keep up with this horse, and this horse, because it seems like every race, you know, every week you've got something. You've got a race coming up. Bob Baffert, everybody's keeping an eye on you.
I have not. You know that saying, you got to stop and smell the roses?
Yeah.
I've not ever smelled one of those dirty roses. I'm so busy. I just go, and I tell my wife, you know, I need to take a break, you know. But it's just one of those. There's always something going on, and I hate to be away from them because I want to be there to prepare them. You know, I like preparing them, and now with Jimmy down, but I do still have a great staff. We got some other good guys, but Jimmy, you know, he's my he did all the heavy lifting, and it just killed me that he wasn't with us when that horse won. You know, he was in an ambulance, and he wanted to stay, but that arm looked when he went down. I said, "You okay?" He says, "I broke my arm." I said, "Well, how do you know?" He lifted his sleeve, and I saw like it was one hand was going one way and the wrist was going the other way.
Oh.
I almost vomited in the. I said, "Get out of here! Go to the first aid." You know, he wanted to stick around. You know, and so he was in the ambulance. My wife went over there to check on him. And he wanted to stay, but then it was starting to hurt him. So they took him. And he said he was watching the race on his phone, and he saw the first quarter, and the phone went out.
Oh, and great!
So he lost the thing. So he called his wife, and his wife gave him the last quarter of a mile, and he said, and she's yelling and screaming and everything, and then she starts crying, and he's going, "Did we win?" She goes, "Yes." So it was the most emotional. I'll tell you what. You saw me. I was just so emotional, you know. It was crazy. But and the year that I've had, the ups and downs, just up and down, up and down, up and down. It never ends. And so I have those good horses that get hurt. Back in May, I had 4. You know, would have had another 2. So, but
I remember Nadal and Charlatan. I mean, you know, you had Fennec, 1,000 words, and you were going to come in with probably 4 of the top 5 horses, throwing Tiz the Law in there.
And then we still pull it out. So it just, you know, we got it done, and we never gave up. You know, I always tell everybody, never look back. Just let's march forward, and let's try to make that next pass count, you know.
Yeah. And you're, you know, everywhere you go, you're the center of attention. And I think especially in Baltimore, you know, there's always something. It's a little different this year. Obviously, everything's different this year. But, yeah, I always enjoyed the kind of the atmosphere around the Preakness after you come off all the craziness and the bigness that the Derby is, which wasn't this year without the fans, of course. But, you know, the Preakness is such an intimate deal, and everybody's in the same barn usually and all. It's kind of a different world up there in Baltimore that I enjoy.
Yeah, it's going to be laid back, but there's nobody going to be there, so it's not. Just like here, you know what? It didn't feel like the Derby that day.
Yeah.
Until the gate came open. Once the gate came open, then it felt like the Derby. And when he hit the wire, it was. I mean, I forgot all about the crowd and everything just to get over there, and couldn't wait to go greet my horse and Johnny V. And Johnny V's ride that he put on that horse was just, oh my, that was magnificent ride. You know, he helped win it. You know, the horse is ready, but the horse is a really good horse. He was always like the number 1, but then these other 2 came up, and everybody kept putting him second and third. But he and he's a late foal. He was like a late May, so he is just coming into his own now.
Yeah, it is because I would imagine, hasn't missed a beat since he won the Derby. Authentic is raring and ready to go. All systems moving forward.
Oh, he looks healthy. He looks great. He's still a handful. He's tough. But you know what? He's just, it's just an incredible feeling. And right now, we don't leave here for another couple of hours. I'm on the horse plane today because I canceled my flight to Baltimore. So I'll be flying with him in the horse plane. So I'm getting ready to go in the Derby Museum and go get pumped up again.
Go in there and look back at all the interviews we've done. I've done 3 of your 6 Derby winning interviews. So that's my claim to fame. That's all I got.
That's your claim to fame. No, you got more claim to fame than that. But let's have a good time. And you're going to be the only one there for NBC?
Brittany and I will be there. We'll be the only 2 there, and I will be with you all day.
They must not worry about you then. They must not worry about you. If somebody gets a COVID, let Kenny Heat get it.
That's it. At first I thought that means I'm really good, and I thought, no, I'm the one that's one that's most expendable. That's it.
Who can we send in there? Kenny. All right, man.
Bob, thanks so much, pal. I'll see you in Baltimore.
All right, Kenny. Thanks.
Thank you. The great Bob Baffert. He has 2 of them, including the favorite, Authentic, going into Preakness. More after this. You're listening to the Horse Racing Show. I'm Kenny Rice. Glad to have Bob Baffert with us. Coming up, we have Kenny McPeek and Tommy Drury. Interesting note about the Preakness, it's going to be run 20 days after the original scheduled date of May the 16th. How about that? It is the longest ever running of this race and the conclusion of the Triple Crown Series that took place over 15 weeks rather than the traditional 5. We heard Baffert talk about the difference in wheeling a horse around for 2 weeks from Derby to Preakness and doing it in 1 month's time. That's how different everything has been this year. And Baffert, by the way, trying to win his 8th Preakness. If he does that, that will be the record. He is tied right now with 7 with the guy named R. Wyndham Walden, who did it back in the 1800s. So that just shows you what all Bob Baffert has done, coming off his 6th Derby win, which ties him with Ben Jones for the record with most of all time. It will be an interesting race, though, even with Tiz the Law out. Of course, they're pointing him to the Breeders' Cup Classic. There is a field of 11 that's scheduled to go. Some you might remember. Max Players coming back. New York Traffic, both of them coming back from the Derby, along with the upset 3rd-place finisher, Mr. Big News. They're going to be taking on the likes of Authentic and Swiss Skydiver and 1,000 Words and Art Collector. Stay with us when we come back. Kenny McPeek talks about his terrific filly, Swiss Skydiver, here on the Horse Racing Show. Welcome back to the Horse Racing Show. I'm Kenny Rice. Delighted to have this man with us. He got his training license back in the mid-'80s. I have known him this whole time, especially if you want to find a bargain out there like a Swiss Skydiver for $35,000 who's won over $1.1 million. Ken McPeek is the man to go to, and he brings that talented filly to the Preakness. She will once again go against the boys, and we welcome in Ken McPeek. Kenny, good to have you on the show. Thank you for your time.
My pleasure. Good to be on.
She's just been remarkable this year. I believe this is going to be at Pimlico, her 9th different racetrack this year, her 9th race this year. Was it planned that way, or did it just work out to go from, I think you've gone Florida, Louisiana, California, Kentucky. She's been all over the place and done well everywhere.
She's just really solid filly. She's an exception to the rule. Usually when you run a filly, they'll back out of the feed tub, and you've got to pay attention to that. She has been just unbelievably steady, and her work pattern in between races is relatively simple, and she's held form. So, and actually, it seems to me to some extent she may have even improved. So, you don't get many opportunities or many horses like this that can compete at this level. And Peter Callahan and I have talked a lot about it, and we feel pretty optimistic she'll run well again.
I believe at one time you were looking to see if Tiz the Law was going to run in the Preakness, and that would be a decider. Was that the case when you said Swiss Skydiver will now go to the Preakness?
Well, we held our cards to the vest as long as possible on that. Yes, we felt like if he opted out, because I don't think he's a horse that really likes Churchill. I think the racetrack over here, the two races that he's run fair in has been the Kentucky Jockey Club and now the Derby. But when he opted out of the Pimlico race, I think it opened our eyes that there's a couple of toughies in there. Of course, Authentic, and then we believe Art Collector's probably the horse to beat. That surface over there, I think it'll play a little bit slower than Churchill did, and our filly, she might weigh 1,000 pounds more than Authentic. So I'm sorry, not 1,000, 100 pounds more than Authentic. She weighs in typically around 1,100 pounds, and she's a big, strong mare. So I think she'll handle it well.
I laughed at that 1,000 because, when you look at her, you go, wow, at first glance, you don't know for sure that she's a filly. If you just walked by and took a glance, she's big and strong, and I don't know, almost had a winning colors look about it.
Oh, she's a bull. I mean, there's no question. She's not so much tall as she is thick, and it's all muscle.
What's the training been like for her for the Oaks? Has everything been kind of on schedule, all systems go?
Yeah, it's just basic stuff. She had an easy half mile a couple of weeks after the race. She had a nice steady 5/8 this past weekend. We had a crisscross on the jockey situation, which was problematic. Let's just put it that way. But we're dealing with it. And she's never been a rider or filly that had to have a particular rider or racetrack, we know. And I think that just shows how talented she is.
Well, I was going to ask you about the jockey situation, so that's something you're not even concerned about. That's the way it is, and you're going to the Preakness.
Yeah, we asked Brian Hernandez for a 2-race commitment going into the Oaks, and we had actually talked to him about riding her back after the Alabama. His agent was unable to give us a 2-race commitment, so we offered the 2-race commitment to Tyler Gaffleone, which him and his agent accepted, but they didn't honor it. So I didn't find out till Saturday night that was happening, and they said, well, we waited too late to decide, but yet we were waiting for Tizelaw to come out, and they knew that, and it left me kind of in a behind the 8 ball. I've pulled Robbie Alvarado off the bench. I've got a lot of confidence in Robbie. He's been there, done that. He's not going to be nervous. I think he's a jockey that's had a lack of an outfit in the last couple of years. He's been getting on horses for me regularly, and he's hungry as I've ever seen him, and he's not over the hill by any means. He just simply needs a good horse to take him there.
Yeah, that's a great point. We're talking with Ken McPeek, over 200 stakes wins and a great career spanning since the mid-1980s, Tejano Run, Harlan's Holiday, Take Charge Lady, Eskimo Kisses. There's a horse you might have remembered out there too, folks, named Curlin, the 2-time Horse of the Year. Well, he was bought for $57,000 by Ken McPeek, and that's where he got his start. And, we talked to you on Oaks Day on NBC about the fact that you're able to just find these horses like a Swiss skydiver, Kenny, for by horse racing terms, relatively modest prices, and they turn into millionaires and successful graded stakes winners. I don't know the key to it, but you certainly have it.
Well, it's evaluating talent. When I was younger, I trained a lot of average horses, claiming horses. I'm a student of the game. I study pedigrees and I look at the way horses are made and the way they move, and it's very much it's moving art in motion. And so when I go to a horse sale, and I think I'm getting better at it the older I get, because I've bought enough horses, and I'm a walking experiment. So if I buy a horse for a client, then I break it and put it in training, and then we go through the process of getting that horse to the races. I see what works and what doesn't work. And I think that's a huge advantage, because Roy Monroe, and I mentioned it on the show last week or last month, that he gave me an opportunity, actually begged for the opportunity when I was in my 20s. Please, let me go pick them out, because if I pick them out, let it be my fault. Because if somebody buys a horse, an agent buys a horse, then they don't know what kind of horse I like. They don't know how I train. And then if that process doesn't come together, then the agent blames the trainer and the trainer blames the agent. So I think the whole dichotomy of that type of situation is bad. And kind of like a ball coach, whether you're Pat Riley or Calipari or anybody else that does that, or Stoops, who I think is doing a great job. They pick their players, they put their team together, they put them in the game, and if they don't win, it's their own fault. And I'm up for that. And I say, hey, look, you want to win, then let me buy them. I had a client one time, I said, you want me to fix you dinner, but you won't let me buy the groceries. And you don't like the taste of things, so then I think you probably ought to let me buy the groceries and cook the dinner. So, and so that particular client wouldn't let me buy the horses, but that's a funny analogy, but that is actually how it works. And I just love going to the horse sale. I think that's the greatest challenge. I don't think training horses is all that complicated. I think finding a good horse is very difficult, and then being able to manage that horse along is something that you also have to do well too.
Hey, speaking of buying horses, it's been a crazy year, obviously, for everyone in every walk of life. But I think in horse racing, especially, you're coming off the Derby and you're going right into horse sales. And now you're coming off the Oaks Derby weekend. You go into horse sales, and then you go right on into the Preakness.
I'm going to tell you, I've had a few days where I needed to recover. I'm not going to deny it, especially after the Keeneland sale. I mean, Fasig, Tipton, and Keeneland were back-to-back, and then we jumped right into, my staff. I came over for works, but I mostly stayed at Keeneland other than the workouts. And then I've got great staff. I've got some guys, I'm going to list them. Greg Geyer, he's 45, 50-year horseman. Mike Clyer at Keeneland, 40, 45-year horseman. Alan Shell at the farm, been around for decades. Dominic Brennan runs our farm in Florida. He and I worked together for 30 years. I mean, so I don't have a young staff, to be honest with you. We're actually sneaking up there a little bit, but that's experience, and experience I think matters, and we have a good time, and we all row together. That's all we can do.
Well, I feel that way sometimes on my NBC crew, but hey, look at you and me, Kenny. We're still standing. That's 98% of it, isn't it? We're still going.
I want a few belt loops back. I mean, other than that, I'm doing okay.
I never will forget having breakfast with you at the Garden City Hotel in 2002. And you said, I'm looking to bag a big one, get one of those classic wins. And you went out that day and you pulled the biggest upset to this day in the history of the Belmont Stakes when Sarava won.
The story behind that, somebody gave me a book called Bag an Elephant. Yeah. And I was reading that book that week, and I actually I like to read good books. And so I'm reading the book, and I ran into you in Battaglia.
That's right. Mike was with us, yeah.
Yeah, and I told you both, I said, I'm going to bag an elephant this weekend because you can either hunt elephant or you can hunt mice. And there are guys that like winning claiming races, and they're good at that, and they do that. But I really like running in the big one. I mean, and if you bag an elephant, it'll last you, it'll feed you for a long time. But if you're chasing mice around, you might starve to death. So anyway, that's one of the reasons why we chose the Preakness. Me and Peter Callahan are elephant hunters. We want to go get the big one.
Well, like I say, after Sarava, you got a big one already, and you said, I believe I heard this right, that and I think this certainly would. If Swiss Skydiver, if she beats the boys this weekend in the Preakness, that certainly puts her in the hunt for a horse of the year.
Yeah, for sure. I really think she should have won the Oaks, and that's water under the bridge. But we talked about staying inside, and Gamine had a tendency to drift out, and I really felt like if my rider had stayed inside, we would have won the Oaks. But it is what it is. We're regrouping. But she's danced every dance. She's been all over the country. She's entertained racing all year, and I hope she's got a couple of more good ones in her and everything goes smooth. And it's been a real honor to be around her. And she's going to race next year. For your information, she's going to be a filly next year, and that's another reason why we chose not to run against older fillies and mares this weekend, because she's got next year to do that. And just a real been a whole lot of fun up to now, and let's keep our fingers crossed it continues.
Wow, and good news there that we'll see her again next year, because as we've talked about many times, Kenny, the stars come, the stars go in racing, and to have a little bit of longevity is kind of rare in this day and age.
Well, because we didn't give a whole lot of money for her, everything's gravy from here. and she's proven so much, and she's shown she's such a high-level talent. And I think her fan base is pretty large. I mean, especially the ladies. The ladies love her, and there's certainly a lot of others that do too. But we're just hopeful that she runs big.
If it's a perfect scenario, and we talked about like Authentic in there, and Art Collector among those the favorites. You're the co-third favorite right now. Perfect scenario. How's it set up for her to win?
I think her best race is when she goes 48 the first half mile. That's a nice early pace for her. She did that in the Alabama, and I think that gives her energy to finish. I think if you go quicker than that, then I think you take the juice out of her for the finish. I'm going to leave that up to Robbie. I mean, how the race unfolds is obviously a huge question mark. You just really never know. I mean, somebody sends from the inside and hooks Authentic, then they're all hustling. How that happens, sometimes like in War Emblem's Preakness, nobody went. They didn't go in his Derby either, and they went 48, and he kept rolling. If they don't go and she breaks clean and she's going a reasonable pace, then I'm okay with her being up front. But you can't predict these things, and you typically don't even try to.
Well, you've got her ready, and she looks great, and I wish you all the best. Kenny, it's been great. I'll see you in Baltimore soon, and we got to do this again.
Anytime.
All right.
Take care, Kenny.
You too. Right. Thank you very much, my friend. Kenny McPeek, who trains the very talented Philly Swiss Skydiver, going this week against the guys in the Preakness. More on the Horse Racing Show right after this. Welcome back to the Horse Racing Show. I'm Kenny Rice. Thank you so much for joining us this week. We're delighted to have him back with us. Tommy Drury, the trainer of Art Collector, as we talked about way before the Derby, one of the great stories of the year. Horseman for many years, well-respected, kind of like the great assistant trainer in helping everybody else get their horses ready, rehab, young horses, whatever. Tommy gets his shot. He's had some success, and then he burst onto the scene this year with Art Collector when owner Bruce Lunsford said, if you win, you keep him. And he's 4 for 4, including the Bluegrass Stakes. Was one of the contenders for the Derby. Foot problem, didn't go to the Derby, but is gung-ho now and ready to go in the Preakness, and we welcome back in Tommy. Tommy, I think most of us are just happy that you're back and that Art Collector's good and you're ready to go. How is everything?
Everything seems to be good right now, Kenny. His last couple of breezes at Churchill have just been phenomenal, and just kind of exactly what we were looking for. And I don't know that there's a thing in the world I would change at this point. I'm very happy with my horse, and he's going to leave for Baltimore today, and be able to get a little trip over the racetrack for a couple days, and hopefully that'll everything that he's done at Churchill will carry over to Baltimore.
You had this, it was just a small problem, but just enough to miss the Derby. I can't even imagine how that felt for you and Bruce Lunsford and everybody connected.
You're disappointed in those situations, but there's another part of you that's just so relieved that it's not something worse. It's very easy. I mean, you look at Maxfield and some of the other horses that, that have had to be stopped on, and it's been more significant, serious type issues. And, for us to hit a bump in the road, the timing couldn't have been any worse. And, of course it was a letdown, but that said, I'm just, you kind of exhale that that's all it is, and that you're going to be able to come back and be 100%.
Well, you saw the Derby, so how you size up this field now? Of course, Tiz the Law not going to be running in the Preakness. They're saving him for the Breeders' Cup Classic. But, with Authentic, we talked to Kenny McPeek, with Swiss Skydiver, the filly that comes into the mix. You've got some interesting scenarios facing you with Art Collector.
We have a great deal of respect for all the horses. I think on any given day, when you get to this level, any of these horses can jump up and run a huge race on any day, and you want to respect all of them. Just as an observation and watching the Derby, Bob's horse, Tiz the Law, took it right to him, and Bob's horse was just having none of it and kept on, and his work since then have been, at least from what I've seen at Churchill, his work since then have been right on cue, and he looks like a horse that's doing well. So we know we've got our work cut out for us. But that, all that being said, I don't know that I would trade places with anyone. I just couldn't be happier with my horse right now.
Well, I think, too, the fact that you're the second betting choice right now in the morning line, you would have been that, I think, for the Derby if everything had worked out. So there's been consistency and respect now for Art Collector. It seems like a long way from that first win this year where you had to win to stay in it yourself, and look how everything's worked out.
It's just the Derby was a little bit of a letdown, but I keep telling everyone this is still a storybook ride. If you would have told me in January, hey, you're going to win the Bluegrass this year and you're going to be second choice in the Preakness, I'd have been out in the middle of the street doing backflips. So so this is really, it was unfortunate that we didn't get to run the Derby, but I'm just so happy that it was something that could be addressed to where we can still make the Preakness, and just really looking forward to giving the horse the opportunity to compete at this level.
Talking with Tommy Drury, the trainer of Art Collector, the second choice this weekend for the Preakness. One thing you've said all along, reading some of your quotes, and it certainly made sense. This is not a consolation. This is one of the classic races you're going after.
You can go anywhere in the world and you can say Kentucky Derby, Preakness, or Belmont Stakes, and most people are going to know exactly what you're talking about. I mean, they, in my opinion, at least, I think I think the Preakness is arguably as big of a race as you're going to run in the United States. So for us to be second choice in it, and to have a horse that we think has a live chance to win this thing, that's storybook in my eyes.
Well, like I say, you're the storybook of the year. I don't think there's anything to compare with it, and you're perfect 4 for 4 with him since taking over the training. It's almost, I don't want to get into, is it fate or whatever like that, but things do seem to be falling right in place, and I'm glad you're getting that shot again with him. Yeah,
that's that had this been different timing and we not been able to run, the one thing that gave me confidence is I knew when we missed the Derby, the Preakness was right, it was right around the corner, and to the point that we immediately turned the page, and it's like, okay, we gotta be ready for this next one, and we kind of went to work, and that's been our thought process ever since then. Had the Preakness not been where it was this year, it would have been a tougher pill to swallow for sure.
And as far as that, did he miss much training with the foot thing? And we don't want to blow anything out of proportion, because obviously it wasn't a very big deal. He got right back in training pretty quickly, and he's getting ready for the Preakness.
Yeah, he missed a couple of days. I mean, it wasn't anything major. It was just more the sensitivity of the area that got it more than anything. So we gave him a couple of days off, and then he jogged a couple of days, and then just kind of eased back into training, and his breezes have been fabulous since then, and he just acts like a horse that's ready to roll.
Yeah, and I thought you all handled it very well, by the way, in a tough situation, but you were looking after the welfare of the horse, which is what Tommy Drury is known for, the welfare of the horse. I mean, I think that might sum your career up, wouldn't it?
I think most trainers would have done the same thing. I don't know that I've done anything special. I do believe that, the biggest responsibility I have is to be the voice for my horse, and to make sure that he's, he always comes first, and that he's taken care of. And, that's probably the biggest responsibility I have as a trainer. And that's with all my horses, not just him. But if you look, AP Indy scratched the morning of the Derby. Richard Mandela scratched Omaha Beach. Most guys are going to do right by their horses, and that's really all I was trying to do. I was just trying to make sure that Art Collector was taken care of.
And as far as the race, if you sat down right now and could map it out, handicapping this race, Tommy, how does everything set up for Art Collector in this one?
That's the good thing about this horse, is we don't have to do that. He's such a versatile horse, and he's got a little stop and go to him, to where Brian could use him a little bit if he needs to, and then get him to shut back off. And we're just going to let the doors open. I would expect us to be forward going by the stands the first time, and Brian can kind of take a look over and see what everybody's doing, and then he can ride the race as it comes to him. But If it's a situation where nobody goes, I would expect him to be very forwardly placed. And if it looks like it's a hot pace, then I would expect us to be tucked in behind them.
I imagine that you might see a horse that Bob Baffert trains out there among the leaders early on, don't you?
I would certainly expect that. They haven't taken him out of his game thus far, and I wouldn't expect him to do anything different this go around. Ideally, you'd like for, not to wish anything bad upon him, but you'd like for someone just inside of him to maybe push him along a little bit early. If nobody goes with him, I can promise you we're not going to let him get too far from us, one way or the other.
Post position 3, is that a big deal? Does it matter?
No, he was the 3 in the Bluegrass. He was the 3 the start before the Bluegrass. He was the 4 in the Ellis Park Derby. So, it's not been a problem thus far this year. So I wouldn't expect it to be one this weekend.
How special has this been for you, Tommy, given your longtime friendship with your jockey, Brian Hernandez?
Oh, it's great. I can't imagine doing it with anyone else. Brian's, he's family, and, him and Jamie and the kids and my kids, we just, I just can't imagine doing it with anyone else. Brian's he's done a fantastic job with this horse. He's been very involved with him in the mornings as well as the afternoons. And, I think, I'm probably a little biased when it comes to Brian, but I think he's arguably one of the most underrated jockeys in the country.
And what's this been like for you? You are self-described. I think you said it on the show the last time we had you on. You're a behind-the-scenes guy. Now you're very much front and center. How's this all been for you?
It's been a little different, but it's been so much fun. People have been very kind, and it's just been different. I'm usually the guy that's reading the stories about the horses, and now all of a sudden I get to be the story about a horse. So it's been a lot of fun. I guess the one thing it makes you realize is, the tough days and the tough beats and the long days and everything that you've done to work hard to get to this point. I mean, this is what makes all that worthwhile. And there was a reason for it. And now here, hopefully we can enjoy it.
Well, enjoy it very much, Tommy. You certainly deserve it. And I look forward to seeing you in Baltimore with you and Art Collector.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for having me.
All right. Thank you. Tommy Drury, the trainer of Art Collector. He's perfect this year, and he's the second choice going into the Preakness. More on the Horse Racing Show right after this. Welcome back to the Horse Racing Show as we get ready for the Preakness, which will be live on NBC Saturday, 4:30 to 6 Eastern Time. Can Bob Baffert do it again? Win for the 8th time the Preakness. He comes in with the favorite, the Derby winner at 9-5, Authentic. It was great catching up with Bob as always. He has both Authentic and 1,000 Words, who is the co-third choice at 6-1. Is he ready to go now after that incident where he flipped over in the paddock? It was great to catch up with Kenny McPeek, who brings in Swiss Skydiver at 6-1. The co-third choice. Can the filly beat the boys this time? She's had a great season. Tommy Drury at 5-2, the second choice with Art Collector. He has been the storybook of the season, a guy that's been behind the scenes, but very much front and center. And you heard both Baffert and McPeek talk about Art Collector, how impressed they are with him. So it was great to have these three guys on today and talking about, well, the top 4 horses that are in this field of 11 for the Preakness. It is this time the third jewel of the Triple Crown in what's been a crazy year. It's a Grade 1 race. It is always special to be in Baltimore for the Preakness. And we'll talk more about that as we wrap it up next week. Hope you can tune into NBC, and I'll be looking at you there. Thank you, Ben Chaffins, as always.
Thank you, Kenny.
Best wishes out there to Jimmy Barnes. He continues to recuperate, as Bob Baffert talked about. And, again, a great lineup, great guest today, and that's what makes this show special and fun for me each week. I hope so for you. We'll talk again next week. I'm Kenny Rice, and this has been the Horse Racing Show.